Hello, my name is Kai, and I am a bit of a rambler. I like to travel, learn, and tell stories. This is Ramble On number 34, I believe. If I'm wrong, the title is correct. But I'm pretty sure this is number 34. And I'm going to do this during the day because I'm awake, and this is more casual. And they're playing band music outside and whatever, so if there's some noises, that's what it is. If you hate the extra noises and want it to be silent, except for the dulcet tones of my hoary voice, that's Hoary, don't get too excited, let me know, and we'll go back to just me yapping. But I figure, whatever, it's a day, it's a casual talky talk. I don't have to be crazy about the ambient silence, although all the main episodes will still be ambient silence. It's just these ones, I don't know, they're more casual. Unless you hate it, and then they will be more produced. Oh man, okay, so the last thing I have on this list, which is the first thing I'll start with, is the parade that I came across, which I don't even know if I wrote down the second parade I came across. Jeez, I have to write that down. Okay, there was this parade. Random day, I walked west in this neighborhood I like, whereas I usually walk east, and the whole street was blocked off, so no cars were driving down, and there were a bunch of people like standing around, and I was like, what's going on? Because there was no parade in the street yet. And I was like, all right, whatever. And I just kept walking, and I kept walking west, and I got my dried fruit, and then on the way back, there were way more people lining the street, and there was a bunch of people in the middle. And I was like, oh, maybe it's starting. And it was, and there were, it was huge. And the crazy thing about this is not in the middle of the city. I'm living in San Sebastian, this local neighborhood where I've seen zero other tourists in my neighborhood for 3 months straight. Oh, actually, there's one woman from the Dominican Republic. But, yeah, okay. So there's one woman from the Dominican Republic I met. But if you went to the middle of the city, tons of tourists from all over. And out here, there's been literally none except that one Dominican Republic woman who also likes ribs. And we had a good conversation at this crazy good rib restaurant. It was basically just like, how good is Peru food? Peruvian food's the best. I love Peruvian food, just back and forth. And she was like, great talking, see you later. Okay, I'm on this road, and there's a pizza place I hadn't tried because I didn't want to spend cash because the fee is high for my bank card here to take out cash, and you can only take out small amounts of cash in Peru. But the thing is, food is so cheap here that even if you take out $100, that can last you a month. That can last me a month very easily. So once I realized that, I was like, okay. And I took out cash, and I went to that pizza place, got my pizza. And while I was waiting, the parade moved up. So again, this is a tiny neighborhood, just locals. They're not doing this for the city center or tourists or anything like that. And 20, maybe there were like 20 groups of 30 people each. The whole street was completely taken up. It might have been 40 groups. I don't even know if it was only 20 groups, but there were marching bands and girls dressed up in, it's all traditional gear also. So the men were wearing the running skirts, and they had like leopard masks on and feathers, and the girls had more feathers and kind of sexier, jeweled, shorter skirts. And I think a lot of them were like in high school or college. There were definitely a range of ages. And it seemed like the leaders were maybe their teachers or the dance teachers. I don't know. But I mean, before that parade and after that parade, there are so many local displays of culture, just like of celebration. that I love the Peruvian people. They're so cool and they love to party. They're like, which is funny. I heard that about Colombia. I went to Colombia, and Colombia is cool. They do like to party, but at least the neighborhood I was in was pretty chill. I was next to a police station. Maybe that's, oh, I guess I'm next to a police station now. But anyway, here, when they party, they're partying. And there are people who drink, but it's mostly the parties are cultural celebrations. And I just happened, that's the biggest parade I have seen in, I don't know how many countries. I don't go to a lot of parades. They're usually too loud and whatever. And this was pretty loud with the music, but the dancing was so cool. And everyone lining the streets, everyone in the parade, were having a really good time. Okay, but the other insane thing about this is they were all dancing, all 600 or however, let's say 600 people. Like I said, 20 groups of 30. Just a block of 30 people. It's like 5 or 6 rows of 5 people each. And they're all doing a choreographed dance. And then 10 feet behind them, or maybe, 30 feet behind them, is another block of 30 people. And that just goes back for 20 groups. And they're all costumed differently. The leopard masks had LED lights in them, so it looked like they had bright red demon eyes. For the men, the women have these like almost burlesque showy giant plumage feathers on their heads. And it was the costumes. If I just got to see the costumes from each group, that would have been amazing. But the insane thing was, each group had their own choreographed dance. And so while the music is playing, they're dancing to the beat of the music while moving forward, just like slowly. They're not dashing to the finish line. That parade probably lasted a couple hours. It was so cool. Their dancing was so good and so expressive and so emotional. Like the men's dancing was very warrior-y and very acrobatic, but very masculine. And the women's dancing was very acrobatic and very feminine. They even used similar moves some of the time, but just the little bit of a difference. Like when the girls would kick their knees a little higher up, crossed over their other leg just a little bit, that immediately looks feminine when you see that dance move, compared to the men's, which would be wider legs kicking up away from each other and landing more solidly on their feet when they land. The dances are amazing, and they were all good. Okay, now you're like, well, that's not too crazy, choreographed dancing in a parade. Yeah, except we're at 11,200 feet. So these people are at literally higher than base camp at Mount Everest, dancing complex routines for well over an hour. They took a couple breaks, but they're dancing for like 10 minutes at a time for 2 hours straight. And then maybe like a 5-minute break or a 3-minute break or something in between, if that. And they weren't sweating. They weren't like, none of them stopped. Some of them might have been a little slower, and you could see them like breathing in this 11,300, 3,500 meter thin oxygen, but they were leaping none of them stopped leaping. Like, no matter how tired they were, when that right beat hit on the drum for them all to dance, they were in the air. They leaped up. They landed into like Aeon Flux crouches, or what's popular now, Black Widow crouches, like acrobatic, sexy crouches, and they swept their legs around, and like some of them were singing. Shouting was a big one, actually. You know what they all were, yeah. There was parts in the song where the girls would yip or the guys would shout and declare their bravery, I assume. This was amazing to see. I was just completely blown away by their acrobatic display, their breath control, because they stayed in choreography. The choreography moves by themselves were like, wow, that's pretty good. That's impressive. And they're on cobblestone street. They're on uneven cobblestone streets in a back pueblo of Cusco, Peru. just doing this for the neighborhood, just displaying pride in their culture. And they should be proud of their culture because before that, their art is amazing here, and their art extends to everything they create, act, and do. All the Cusco people here, whenever there's a demonstration or a mural or anything, I'm really into their art. I liked the Colombian art. I like the Guatemalan street art. I probably like the Peruvian art the best. There's something about the vibrancy of their colors, the brightness, and how they match colors with each other here that really appeals to me. Even in their clothes, like their woven alpaca hats, they're so bright, but they don't come off as garish or tacky. The designs, the square designs, somehow mitigate how bright the colors they use. They don't look too bright. They look like an appropriate, like in those Thor movies, right? They have to go on a rainbow bridge. And 10 years ago, when nobody knew who Thor was, or what is that, 20 years ago now? 20 years ago, before the world knew who Thor was because those movies hadn't come out, if you told people, yeah, there's this group of like really badass warriors and they come to Earth to save Earth, and they have like axes and, horn helmets, and they're like just really vicious guys. Really? How did they get to Earth? Oh, they walk on a rainbow bridge. Anyone you told that to would be like, a rainbow bridge? What? That's not very manly. But in the movies, you see them on the rainbow bridge. They use bright lights to make the bridge look cooler, and it's shooting by, so there's little meteors in it. It looks really cool. So everyone now is like, yeah, of course the manliest warriors in the universe travel by rainbow. Like back, 20 years ago, you'd be like, oh, are they Sailor Moon? No, they're super manly, masculine, vicious warriors, and they travel by rainbow. And people have accepted that because of how the rainbow is presented aesthetically in these movies. That's how the Peruvian art is. The color is so bright, you would think like, well, that's going to look silly. You're going to look like you're wearing Lisa Frank. But they can have bright yellow, bright pink, bright red, girls or boys, and with the geometric patterns separating all the colors, it just looks cool. It just looks like a secret Legend of Zelda temple design. It looks awesome. And when I see the people painting murals, and you'll see them a lot, like all of their fences even are painted pretty new, even in the rural neighborhoods. There must be a government program where they pay local artists to keep everything nice. There are so many murals. Some of them are really emotional. There's one, I think, about the killings in Lima because there's been gang violence against bus drivers in Lima, like an extortion racket going on. And yeah, there's a woman screaming that is stuck in my head now, a mural of a woman screaming and a coffin beside it. And her expression is so evocative. And all of the murals here, they have mermaid murals that I'm kind of taken by. It's just amazing, amazing art up here. And I've seen a few of these mural artists and just painters, fence painters, painting, and even the fence painters, each piece of the fence will be a different color, and they're always choosing the perfect color that, again, is very bright, but not garish, not silly looking at all. And again, part of that is the way they used their bodies. Okay, I'm going to close the windows a little just in case I feel like it's really loud and maybe it's getting to you. Hang on. Okay, well, now there's a plane. Oh, I think that's better, though. I don't even know if you hear any of that stuff outside because my microphone is pretty cool, but no, I can see the waveform. You must be able to hear something. Oh, but that is better. If it's bad, again, just tell me and I'll go back to silence. It's just if I can record these more casual podcasts without worrying so much about the ambient audio, it would save me a lot of time. It would help my schedule quite a bit. Okay, this freaking parade, man. So I was like, what is happening? Because it was so elaborate. There were so many people both in the street, in the parade, and on the street, like watching the parade, hundreds and hundreds of people. Like I said, the parade alone was probably at least 300 people. There were so many. Or 600, right? 30 by 20. If there were, I'll say 300 at the very least, 10 groups of 30 people each. At the very least, there were 300 people. 600 does not sound crazy at all to me. It was a very long, huge parade with many groups. And I was curious what was going on. And I asked a person outside, like, hey, what holiday is this? And they were like, I don't know, it's a parade. And I was like, okay. So I went inside the pizza restaurant I was going to go to that I mentioned way before I got distracted. And I got a pizza, and while I was waiting, I was like, do you guys know what's going on outside? And they were both like, yeah, there's a parade. And I was like, why is the parade going on? Is there some kind of holiday? And they were like, I don't know. And I was like, so do you know why they're dancing, though? Because I thought maybe I was asking the word for holiday incorrectly, Dia de Festiva, but I wasn't. I was asking it correctly. And they said they just like dancing. And that was the answer. Oh, yeah, those people just like dancing. And I was like, that cannot be correct because there's an obvious organization. Like, it is a parade. They blocked the streets. They're police officers keeping the cars out and it's a parade. There's something going on. But the first, so after the pizza place, both the guy and the girl told me, oh, those people just like to dance. I was like, that's not what's happening. So I got my pizza, went back outside, and I ate that whole pizza just watching this parade go by for the next hour. Just, again, gobsmacked at the athletic prowess, dancing, costuming. And I probably asked 5 more people, like, what holiday is it? And some of them just shrugged, like, I don't know, with a smile on their faces, like, pretty cool though, right? And some of them told me, like, I don't know what holiday it is. And I was like, this is crazy. How can all of the locals in this neighborhood and that nobody knows what holiday it is? And when the parade was over and I still didn't have an answer, I watched the whole parade wrapped, though. I mean, I love choreographed dancing, and these guys were really good at it. And they're all like young people, so they all look good too, and their costumes are all cool. It was just an amazing procession, and everybody, the hundreds of people lined on the sidewalks we were all just like, this is so cool. But you could tell the Peruvians, all the locals watching it were like, this is another cool parade. They must have so many of these, which I found out they do. They have a bunch. So, parade finally ending, everyone's walking out up the street, and by ending, I mean all 10 or 20 groups, whatever, had passed by me, but they weren't even halfway down the street, so they were still going to go for like the other half of the street, and they did. I was like, holy cow. But I had already been watching for an hour, and I watched from the first group to the last, and I was like, I guess I could just go to the front again and watch all of them more, but that seemed excessive. I felt like I should take my treasured memory and just be like, man, I just had a crazy... How crazy is that? This is not a famous neighborhood. This is not a famous street. I mean, I guess it's kind of famous. There's a market. I don't know. It's not a super big street. Not a super big neighborhood. Nothing really distinguishing it. And I walked down the street without getting an answer why this amazing parade had just happened by all of these people, and nobody even knew what was happening. And there was this old man inside his house. A lot of the houses here, like the door opens directly onto the sidewalk. And he was looking out after the parade. And I just took a chance and asked him, like, hey, do you know what Dia de Festiva it is? I'm talking to everybody in Spanish. And he said, oh, yeah. It's to celebrate this specific neighborhood. This neighborhood's kind of an important cultural neighborhood to Cusco. And it's one of the older neighborhoods in the city. And so this is just a cultural display of appreciation for this neighborhood and that plaza where that old church is. So that's what it was. It was just a cultural appreciation parade with hundreds of people and choreographed dances and costumes just so they could celebrate their culture. And they should. Their culture is cool. Their art is cool. Their food's amazing. And they're friendly, chill people here. You know what I really like about Peruvians? At least the ones in my neighborhood here. They are chill and they are cool. And sometimes the really old ladies might try to overcharge me on a carrot. But as soon as I'm like, but it's not 1.5 soles, they're like, yeah, it's one. And some of them just give me the right prices. Most of them give me great prices the first time. It's not even worth it to these people who are so cool to try to overcharge the obvious tourist for most of them. And like I said, the ones that do try to do it, they're like, it's 1.5. I'm like, 1? And they're like, yeah, it's 1. And it's not even, they're not even like scalping me. They're not grifting me real bad. It's like an extra half a cent. But when you're traveling, if you know the price of something, use the correct price. They'll respect you more. You'll be more local and in the fold if you get the correct price for your cabbage rather than overpaying for it. You're probably going to feel silly because, like, a cabbage is, whatever, $2 maybe for the whole cabbage. You can buy a portion at a time and for 1 sol. And that's like 30 cents, whatever, or less. But if they're selling them and they say, oh, that's 3 soles. And if you just take that and buy it, they'll be like, oh, come on, man. They want you to haggle and be like, it's 1, right? That's the correct price is 1, which if you go to the supermarkets, you can get all the supermarkets are like 10 to 20% maximum more expensive than the local markets. So if you know a slice of cabbage is 1 sol or 1.5 soles in the supermarket, you can go to the local markets and know that you should be paying 1 sol for that same size slice of cabbage. So if the lady's selling it for 3 and you say 1, they're happy. They're like, okay, he knows what's up. Here are your vegetables. And then everything else will be normally priced. They won't try it again. And that has actually never happened with the vegetables here. That did happen with one thing. I think hilo negro, the string I use. I asked one guy and he was like 30 and I was like, there's no way that's 30 cents. He was like, it's 20. And I was like, yeah, come on, man. And I don't even think it's 20. I think it's actually 10, but I'll pay a little more, which is like polite for the tourist who has more money and can willfully shop. Just my own perspective. You don't have to pay more. I overpay a little. I'll pay supermarket prices at the groceries, at the local markets. But even then, if you try and do it, you're gonna get cheaper prices at the local markets anyway. It's just so cheap. I still make the golgopa and eat it with potato chips, just that salad mix. So I'll buy a slice of cabbage for 1 sol. I'll buy an onion and a tomato for 1 sol altogether, and then maybe a carrot for another 50 cents. They'll weigh everything. Yesterday, the lady did that, and she was like, 80 cents. 80 cents of soles. So that's like 20 cents American, maybe 22 cents. It's so inexpensive to shop at the local markets. And most people just give you the good price. I don't even like to do it's 1 sol, not 2 soles thing. So I'll go to different stalls a lot. And then as soon as I find the one that weighs it and gives me the correct price, I just keep going back to that person if they have the fresh vegetables. I love local markets. Just walk around looking at all the amazing food that somehow spoils very slowly for some reason. I mean, here it makes sense. Up in Cusco, there's less oxygen, less oxidization happening, and it's very dry up here with the elevation. So it makes sense that food stays preserved longer. But in all countries, like Chengdu, super humid place, all their produce, they just somehow stays fresh for longer. Maybe it's because it's in a big pile. Because, if you have fruit in a pile, it'll kind of last a while. I don't know. So that man explained to me what the parade was about. It was over. I was like, cool cultural celebration. It was awesome. It was absolutely amazing. I had 100 pictures and videos I took. Just like, what is happening? Who are all these beautiful people costumed elaborately, dancing professionally in 11,000 thin air elevation. It was so entrancing to watch. So I have 7 pages to get through. That was the first item on the list. Yeah, it makes sense. That was amazing. When I saw that happened in the first month I came to Cusco, and when I saw that parade, I was like, yup, this was the correct decision. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to go to Cusco next, or even if I was only supposed to stay a month and then leave. But when I saw that parade, all the other things, all the colors, the clothing, the food, everything clicked into place. And I was like, no, this is definitely where I'm supposed to be. And I have to start climbing those mountains. And Cusco is my place. Just like other places, I almost always, when I go to a new place, I'm like, yeah, I could live here. Like Panama, I could live there for sure. Medellin, yeah, I could live there for sure. Cusco, I could live here and I would be happier than in the other Central South American countries I've been to. I can just walk for 30 minutes and be in the mountains. If I walk for another 30 minutes, there's not a soul around in the Andes, the endless peaks of the Andes Mountains. And I can walk around as long as I want to, and then spend a few hours walking back, and there's just all of my favorite foods like waiting for me. Except Chinese hot pot base, I will say that. But I'm sure there are Chinese stores here where I could buy the hot pot base and make it myself. And every time I walk down, everyone who sees me too, they recognize me, obviously, as the tourist after the first time I visit them, and they're happy to see me, and they're kind, and they're happy that I'm buying their food and that I like their food so much. And they try to talk to me in Spanish, and they're very empathetic here. They're very good. They're much better than other countries. I'll say so far, the people in my neighborhood have been much better than people in most other countries in terms of gauging my actual level of Spanish and then adjusting their language level so that I can understand and we can actually have a short conversation. Whereas in like Guatemala or Panama, especially, big city, like they just usually spoke too quickly and stayed at their level of Spanish, which is totally fine and completely fair. But it's just nice to feel so welcomed in this city, in a beautiful city that I love climbing the mountains of, with great food and cool people and great clothing. I want to buy a big, thick Peruvian jacket and stuff, but it just wouldn't really fit my style. And I actually have a Peruvian knit alpaca wool cap in the Peruvian style from Peru that was shipped to the US that I bought in Colorado, and I've taken around the world with me. Oh, wait. Yeah, maybe that's a new one. So for 5 years or something like that when I visited Colorado. Cusco rocks. Maybe all of Peru rocks. I am going to go check out Lima soon, so we'll see. I don't like cities in general, especially relative to smaller towns, but who knows? It'll be fun to be back in a city. It's been a while, for sure. Okay, folks. Okay, so that was the Peruvian parade. The episode's almost over. That's so funny. The first item took me nearly half an hour. But it was such a good parade. I still remember. I have clear flashes of memories of the people leaping and dancing and their costumes, just the colors and the athletic prowess, and the beautiful girls, of course, can't deny. And just how happy literally everybody was. Even the panting dancers, you could just tell they were like, yeah, I'm doing this. This is like, I'm representing. And they were all representing. And everyone on the side of the street, we were all so into it. That was so cool. Okay. Next item on the list, crazy TEFL jobs, China, is what I wrote down. TEFL, teaching English as a foreign language. So I think I mentioned this on the last one. If I didn't, I'm going to talk about it again. I checked English jobs for this guy I helped move abroad from the US because he was like, hey, are you serious? The US sucks. I don't want to live here. And I was like, great, I can help you live abroad. It's way better. It's costs pennies on the dollar to live out here. The food's better. Nobody is shooting children. Yeah, come travel. And we talked for a long time. He has started traveling, and I was looking up jobs that he could get in China because I also told him, like, you speak English. That is a skill you have that is valued around the world. 2 billion English students. You should go teach English if you need some money. And he was like, yeah, I need money. And I was like, okay, if you're a native English speaker, you're good. You should get the TEFL certificate because then you'll automatically get higher pay. So I think he's doing that right now. But because of him, I have looked up the jobs that were available these days in China. Last time I looked up was like 6 months ago. And if I haven't talked about this, this is going to shock you. If you haven't heard this yet, which, I don't know, maybe it wasn't in the Ramble On episode, you can get paid $10,000 a month for a 40-hour work week right now in China for teaching English, for one-on-one tutoring English. So when I arrived in China, the regular rate was like $1,500 to $2,000. $2,000 was common enough to get. So like 12 years ago, something like that. If you showed up in China and you were a fluent English speaker, they would pay you 2,000 USD flat, which is the same as a high-paid salaryman, like a middle-aged salaryman in Beijing. So you're getting paid pretty well relative to the cost of living there. Housing is $100 for an apartment. Food is maybe $1 a plate. It's a very good salary, $2,000 a month. Then 5 years ago, I checked the prices and the salaries again, and it looks like the median was like $2,500. And when I went back this time and checked, another 5 years later, all of the starting positions started at 3,000 USD per month. But I was just in China last year, and none of the prices, at least for a traveler, have increased. Housing is the same, maybe because of the huge housing collapse they had in China, or cheaper. And food is the same. Everything costs the same as it did over a decade ago, but now you're getting $3,000 per month starting instead of, like, I got $2,000 per month starting when I started out. 3,000 USD per month? It would be very, very easy to save 2,500 of that per month. Very easy. But Kai, I thought you said 10,000. Oh, my friends, I did. Okay, so that 3,000 per month starting salary, that is for a new teacher with a TEFL certificate will certainly help, but that's for 20 to 25 hours. I'll say 25 hours per week. So if you were working 40 hours per week, that'd be an extra 50%, or 60%. So that's actually closer to 5,000. If you work a 40-hour week, you're much more likely to get closer to 5,000 USD. But Kai, I thought you said 10,000. Oh, I did. These are for any school. I'm talking thousands of jobs across China, at least. It's much more likely tens of thousands of jobs. Again, there are 2 billion language learners across the world, and about 1 billion of them are in China. There's so many people who want to learn English there, or like 700 million. There are so many people. So there are so many jobs. For numbers, that's 6,000 English language learners per willing teacher that are available. There's only 250,000 teachers in the world. Oh, that's a lot. Now with 2 billion language learners, that means they need teachers that can teach 6,000 students each. That, I cannot explain to people how large this industry is. Okay, and corollary, Kai, I thought you said 10,000 USD per month. Yes, I did. So if you get any of these entry-level jobs, you're making 3,000 for 25 hours of work a week. The highest I saw was 30. If someone's saying 40 hours a week for an English teaching job, don't get that job. It doesn't make any sense. They're just they're like, maybe someone who doesn't know will get that. No, the average amount is 25 hours per week in English for a teacher and up to 30, but never more than that. For any school that I would teach at or that I would trust. If they're trying to get someone, if they're trying to hook an ignorant foreigner for 40 hours a week, then they're tricky people, and I wouldn't go to that school. Okay, so $10,000 per month. $3,000. You show up 25 hours a week. That's about $5,000 per month if you work 40 hours. You could very easily work 25 hours at one school, 15 hours at another school if you really want the money. And you can get those jobs. Those jobs are everywhere because the starting salary is $3,000. Like I said, thousands or tens of thousands of jobs across the country just waiting for a native English speaker to walk in their doors. Literally, I'm not exaggerating any of this, and say, hi, I'll teach English. They'll be like, great, we will hire you. If you're walking around in Beijing and you see a school you walk in, they'll hire you. It's indescribable. It's so difficult to convey this to U.S. Americans especially, who are in such a depressing job market where they're just rejected over and over again, overqualified for positions they're being rejected from. You have a skill you've been practicing your whole life. Go to China. They'll pay you thousands of dollars. You'll save thousands of dollars a month. Okay, anyway, 10,000. Kai, you said 10,000. So if you get any entry-level jobs, you can work 40 hours a week. You will be getting 5,000 USD per month. 40-hour weeks, 160 hours for $5,000 per month. That's about the average entry-level hourly wage of $30 per hour, per class hour you're teaching, which is like 45 minutes or 50 minutes because there's a break in each class. $30 per hour, that's like 200 renminbi, yuan, 200 Chinese yuan. That is the minimum rate I saw on all of these schools. So that's all jobs. Any English teaching job you get, you'll be getting $30 per hour to read basic English words, literally could be the rainbow colors, for 10 minutes from a book. You do a small activity, take a break, read from the book again to the kids, they repeat to each other, class is over, you just made $30. $30 an hour, a skill you've got down pat, native or fluent speaker I'm talking to. $30 an hour, that is $5,000 a month US, just waiting for anybody. But Kai, you said $10,000. Okay, so 200 is the lowest number I see on these ads. There are multiple, like dozens on one magazine, thebeijinger.com, I have checked. There are multiple jobs offering one-on-one tutoring, so it's just you, the teacher, and one student, paying 400 renminbi per class session per hour. So now instead of $30, you're making $60 per hour. 400 renminbi. Now, obviously, 5,000, if you're doing that, boom, times 2, now you're making 10,000. If you tutor at 400 renminbi for 40 hours a week, that's 160 hours a month, 160 times 60-ish is $9,600 US per month. You can go on thebeijinger.com/classifieds right now, and that's like kind of a fancy magazine. It's the most popular magazine in China, certainly in Beijing. So the classifieds, there's less than 1% of the available jobs are on there, but you'll still find 20 or 30 English teaching jobs on there that are offering pay rates of 350 to 450 renminbi. 450 is closer to like $65 per hour, so more than 10,000 a month. And they have, 700 million language learners, children and adults. Whatever your level is, they will pair you with a kid, especially if you have a TEFL, and you will be getting paid with the TEFL certificate, the higher end of the pay scale. You will be getting that $60, $65 per hour. Now, I was getting paid that. My highest pay was a little over $70 per hour per session I had with this kid, which was, per hour. And that was great. And that was 10 years ago. That was a long time ago. So these rates, like getting paid $60 an hour to just speak basic English to one student, might sound crazy to you, but I got paid more than that a decade ago. And the companies that are offering these jobs to English speakers, they're probably getting paid like twice as much. They're probably getting paid 100 or more. Again, this was like 5 years ago when I was looking at jobs for someone else I helped move abroad. There was a old Chinese guy who said, I'll meet you in a cafe once a week and I'll pay you the equivalent of $100 an hour, 700 renminbi. So that's like $115 per hour. And he didn't want a lesson. He just wanted to talk to a native speaker. His daughter was studying in America. He was going to go visit her in like 6 months. And he was like, so for 6 months, you just meet me once or twice a week at this cafe, whatever your schedule is good for. We'll talk for an hour. I'll pay you 700 renminbi and good to go. So if you met that dude twice a week for 6 months, what's that? 8 times 48. So let's just round it to 50. That's 48 times over 6 months. He's paying you $115 per hour that he's probably buying you tea at in the cafe. And you just talk about nothing. You can talk about Iron Man or My Little Pony or whatever you like. Crocheting. He just wanted to chat. 50 times 115? 5,750. So if you just met with this guy and just talked, you'd make $5,000 over 6 months, which would be 2 hours a week meeting with that guy. That would more than cover your expenses. If you're there for 6 months, $5,750 is almost $6,000. Easily $500 per month you can spend in China. You could, let's just say you spend $1,000 per month, 2 hours a week. You'll get $1,000 per month. You can drink as much beer as you want. You can go party every day and spend $1,000 a month very carefully. So for 2 hours a week with this guy who wants to pay you $115, your cost of living is totally covered in China. Now, great, but I'm not going to get that job. Fine. Get a TOEFL certificate. Go get one of the jobs that are paying $60 per hour. Because by that same math, then you only have to work 4 hours per week. At $60 an hour, 4 hours per week, that's $1,000 a month. You will easily be able to survive on $1,000 a month. If you want to work 10 hours a week, then boom, you're saving an extra $1,000 per month. If you want to work 15 hours, you're saving, $2,300 per month. You want to work 20, it just keeps going up. It's crazy. I have money. I have enough money for the rest of my life because I saved all my paychecks in China. But when I see these when I see these pay ranges, I certainly am thinking maybe I should go back for a year, make another 100,000 and buy a boat. Like, I love living in China. The food's so good. It's so convenient. And I could have a boat or yeah, but I haven't done it because I really don't need a boat or want a boat right now. If I need 100% teaching English is if I ever need money, what should I do? Teach English. 100%. I've been to China's one country. They pay the most, but you can get paid well in most countries in the world relative to the cost of living. It'll be less in countries like Thailand or Cambodia. You'll get paid less, but the cost of living is as low as China or lower, so you're still saving $500 or $1,000 a month, even if you're only getting paid $1,500 per month. But, I mean, if you're gonna do it anyway, why not just go to the place where they're willing to pay you $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 per month, and instead of getting $2,000 per month and working for 5 years and then retiring, go to China, work for 1 year, and then retire or take a break. You'll have $100,000 if you work 40 hours a week, which, again, personally, I would never do. If you really want money, I'm just saying it's right there for you to pick up. I don't like working that much. When I worked as an English teacher, I worked, by the numbers, a maximum of 30 hours a week and much more often, especially with my second school. My second school, I don't think I ever worked more than 12 hours a week. And I was still making 2,000, whatever. It was my own school, so I got all the profit. But I was making more than 2,000 a month, and I never worked more than 12 hours a week. Yeah, so I guess I was getting paid at least $200 per hour to teach English to mostly children, a couple middle school kids, and a couple adults. I recommend it. I recommend getting out of financial destitution because it sucks, and that's where I lived for the first 25 years of my life or whatever. And if you're hearing this and being like, well, yeah, you did it, but blah, blah, yeah, trust me, dude. If I did it, you can do it as a native English speaker or a fluent English speaker, and I will tell you how to do it. If you want to know how to do it, If you want details and you want examples and proof and all that stuff, email me, bitofarambler@gmail.com, or hit me up on Lemmy and Blue Sky, or even Twitch. I have had a bunch of talks with the guy who's traveling now, live Q&As on Twitch. Just talk to me. Those jobs are there. I can show you the pay ranges online. I got better than those pay ranges a decade ago. These numbers make total sense to me. There's more English language learners than ever. There were, when I moved to China, about 1.5 billion people learning English around the world, almost. Now there's almost 2 billion people learning English. So if you have heard anything from anybody who has not been English teaching or has not traveled at all, and they're like, yeah, but all those jobs are taken up, or they don't really pay you that much, it's really expensive to travel, all that crap from someone who has not traveled or been in the industry, total baloney, my friend. I will send you the current pay scales and screenshots. I'll give you the links. Yeah, I'll set you up. You can get out there, start making money, or more likely, if you're a US American, start paying off your debt. The jobs are there and they are waiting for fluent speakers. I worked hard once I realized that I could retire much quicker than the 60 years I was always told. I was like, okay, then I'm just going to work on working less but making the same amount of money. And I did that until, like I said, at my second school in Chengdu, I was working 12 hours a week, bringing in the same amount of money, over $2,000 US a month. And I was saving most of that. My apartment was $80 a month. Thank you, my friend who set me up with that apartment. Food was $1 a plate, maybe. I partied all the time, too. I was drinking and going out to hot pot like every day, so I probably spent closer to $10 a day on food. But $10, you're bringing in $2,500. If you spend $10 a day, if you spend $20 a day, I'll say, is exorbitant. But many days, I'd be drinking 20 beers, which is like $5 maybe, and I'd eat hot pot or chuan chuan for literally 4 to 6 hours, just sitting with friends eating that. If you spent $20 a day, which would be lavish luxury eating out every day, that's still only $600 a month. And you're bringing in more than now you're bringing in $3,000 a month, right? With those entry-level jobs. But I was bringing in way more. I was bringing in more than $2,000. So I was still saving at least $1,500 a month. And I was working 12 hours a week. So I could have been bringing home at least 3 times that. It's just a decade ago, and now they're paying so much more for these entry-level English teaching jobs. Also, all of the jobs that I'm talking about, all these listings, it's very interesting because they offer so many more benefits than the jobs used to. People like big schools like Disney English that isn't around anymore, they used to offer sign-up bonuses and flight reimbursement and all this stuff, but most schools did not. Now, every single listing I see, in addition to the much higher base pay of $3,000 US plus per month, they also offer work visa assistance, really important. There's assistance to help you with all your daily stuff, translating, getting your phone, all that stuff. Their textbooks are all there so you can do the curriculum. So the curriculum's ready to go. You don't have to make the curriculum yourself. You just read from a book. They reimburse your flights. They have air conditioning. Their schools, a lot of them mentioned. It's just everything's taken care of. They know now that they lose so many English teachers because they don't offer comfortable benefits that especially younger generations want and believe they deserve, and I believe they deserve. You should be treated well, especially as a teacher. It doesn't matter if you're an English teacher or a physics teacher. If you are teaching students, that's a big responsibility and literally one of the most important jobs in the world. So you can also feel good because teaching English is giving so many opportunities to people. It's the skill that makes the language world go round right now. English is very important right now. If you teach a kid English, you are giving that kid material opportunities later in their lives, and maybe even earlier in their lives. So you can feel good about the job, you get compensated well. The schools are offering jobs that look better than any job I scrolled through a decade ago. Okay, now we're through the second item on one page of 6-7 pages to talk about. Jeez, okay, these other ones should go a little faster, but I get so excited talking about these jobs because I kind of want to go back. I think it's been long enough that I kind of miss China. I don't think, go back to Beijing because there were these security guards and they were like, show me your passport. And I was like, ugh. Beijing is like so regimented since it's the government center. But if you're starting in China, just go to Beijing. It's incredibly convenient. You're not going to know what's happening. I feel like a local in Beijing. I speak Mandarin. Like, I know how to haggle. I just know a ton of things about the culture. So it was insulting to me to be asked for my passport, even though I am the touristiest looking MF in the neighborhood. Makes total sense. And I didn't even get bothered. I never carried around my passport. Like, that's against the rules. I never got in trouble or anything. I'm just whining because I want to be treated like a local in like the country, aside from North Korea, that is the least likely to ever treat you like a local. It's just not going to happen. But it's a huge country. There are so many amazing cities around there. I'm going to go to other cities. I lived in Beijing long enough. Beijing's also the smoggiest, foggiest. I'm going to go live in Yunnan with my mountains, something like that. Oh, I want to go to Mongolia too. Oh, I'm excited for my Asia trip. I'm going to go to Asia. I got to go back. I just keep thinking about Asia. I've had a really good time here. I do love Peru a lot. It's probably my favorite country outside of Asia so far. But I miss Japan. I miss the cherry blossoms. I miss China and their hot pots. And I miss Thailand and their buffets. And just cool belly-rubbing lazy people on the side of the road. Just love Asia. It's Peru. Peru is my Asia of Central South America. Maybe that's why I'm digging it here so much. People are pretty chill. They're very proud of their culture. And Asia, individual countries, very proud of their culture. And the arts there, wow, I haven't thought about that. That's an interesting corollary. But I am missing Asia. I'm going back, folks. I'm not sure yet. I have to go to a wedding of a friend in the Philippines. I want to get to Japan if I can for cherry blossom season. Really want to go to Yunnan and China and climb the mountains because I haven't been to that province yet. Just all excited. So I'm going to go to Asia. Okay, what's next on the list? Let's get 3 things done in an hour, Kai. Jeez, bit of a rambler. Good thing I named my podcast Bit of a Rambler, huh? This motherfucker never shuts up. Okay, I had to buy beer. That's not true. I didn't have to buy beer. I'm actually taking a break right now. But I wasn't taking a break when this happened. I went to BTEL, the telephone company here. There are like 5 of them. And I had to recharge my phone. But it was one of the smaller places, and even the big places don't use credit card. So I was like, okay, well, I have 50. And she was like, I have 0 change because you're the first person to walk in here. I was like, So I went, oh no, it was like a 200. It was a bigger bill. Anyway, I looked around, but people don't like changing money for the smaller bills here because the big bills are so hard to spend. So I was having trouble. But then I realized right up the street, there was a giant supermarket that I had been to a few times. And so I tottered up there. It's called Totus, actually. And there was some beer on sale. And so I was just thinking that I was going to start my dry spell for a while and that day, but I was like, well, I got to make change. And so I bought a big old 6-pack of Cusqueña, and it was good, and I drank it all, and I was able to break the change and then recharge my phone. And when I went back, the girl was happy. And she looked young. She was pretty thin. And they have like a lot of kids who work with their mom or their dad in the markets. So there's like younger workers than you would expect to see that might give you vegetables or whatever when their mom's like, give him a carrot. not very common here compared to other countries, but I did see a few younger employees, and she looked younger, and we had been talking a little bit. I was practicing my Spanish. Oh, and her English was crazy good, which was really surprising. So after my Spanish failed, she was like, "You can speak English?" And I was like, "Yes." And I asked her how old she was, and she said 12 with a straight face. And I was like, "Oh, what?" Because she was pretty. And I was like, "Uh-oh." And then she was like, 20. I'm 20, not 12. And I was like, "Oh, okay, Jesus Christ." It's like terrified me. Because like I'm getting older and it's more difficult for me to differentiate ages. But I was like, there's no way I missed that she's 12. But I was worried that I was just such an old piece of crap that I couldn't tell ages anymore. And 20 is certainly young for me as well, but I was like, that's at least an age I understand. You look like a adult human. And she was very appreciative of me going to get change so that I could recharge it at their store. Then I said thank you, and her English was great, and I was very impressed. And then we said goodbye, and I went and got some dried mango or something and kept on walking. Well, I'm so close to an hour, I guess we'll just get to an hour. I'm trying to make these shorter these days, but I guess if I do them during the day, I can talk for an hour or longer. That's fine. Have more time. So I moved to a new apartment in Cusco that is still absurdly large. It's 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, giant living room, twice as big as any place I had renting out in the state. The living room and kitchen I have here is probably bigger than the 3-bedroom apartment I had in Portland. And it costs less than half as much. It costs $290 a month. Or I guess $10 a day because it was that was for 4 weeks. But it's very nice. Tiles, everything's clean. There's a whole like in the tile in the bathrooms where they put in a valve so you can shut off the water in case it's necessary. And there's a musty smell from inside the wall, but I just put tape over it and then the musty smell wasn't so bad. And it's amazing. This is a great place. Like, it's a giant kitchen. There's a washing machine. Fantastic. Why am I talking about this? Oh, new place. I didn't tell you about it yet because I just moved in here a couple weeks ago, and I like it a lot. And it was funny because I always live in the local neighborhoods. I never go to the tourist centers when I move to a new city. So people are often surprised that I would choose to be in the local neighborhoods where the prices and the food are way better. Don't be surprised. So I checked into this new place and it was really nice. And I was like, oh my gosh, I still can't believe, I've been traveling for 15 years. I still cannot believe the cost of living differences. And this isn't just country to country. Like, obviously it's incredibly cheap here for a very nice 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, full kitchen, washing machine, all the utilities. Oh yeah, you don't pay for utilities also. For $300 compared to the States, it's crazy. But even within this city, if I was living like a mile west, if I was living, 2 miles maybe, tops, I think closer to like a mile and a half, west of here in the tourist center, I'd be paying twice as much at least. Like, they know that tourists like to congregate, and so they build a tourist center, and things are more expensive there. You just go outside of the tourist center, you're still in the same city, buses will take you straight to the city center in 10 minutes, but you're paying half or often less for far better accommodations than you would get in the city center. It's just great. So I walked in here and I was like, oh my God, look at this freaking place. Because the first apartment I got here was also 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, huge, beautiful, very nice hardwood floors. I walk into this one, pretty much the same thing. Giant, my choice of bedrooms and bathrooms, and there's tiles and it's clean, and a giant kitchen for me to make foods. And I'm in the location I like. I'm with all the locals. There's a market across the street. There's a supermarket where I can go get those smoked ribs that I'm addicted to. It's just exactly what I like. Now, I am next to a car, like tapiceria, a place where they repair cars and like modify cars and stuff. So there's a little machining noise outside. You probably heard at some point. But if you close everything, if you close all the windows, it's pretty quiet. And they work 9 to 5, so before 9 and after 5, they're not there. Or I guess it's like 8 to 5, something like that. But it's not all hours. And it's certainly worth it for the amazing view of the Andes Mountains I have from my giant living room. It's just a very comfortable spot. So I check into this new place, but again, the most important thing for people who live, this isn't weird to them. All the locals they live in like pretty nice places. If you have just an average median income, they're charging me less than 300 for this place. So for this condo, they're probably paying 100 USD. They're probably paying much less, maybe like 70 USD for this huge condo. So the locals outside, most of them have their own houses or condos. They live in pretty nice places relative to their income from what you would think. Oh my gosh, you make $400 a month? That's terrible. Sort of, except the pricing here is so low that they can, and everything is so generational here, they have really nice housing at a much, much lower price. And they rent it out to me, and they're super happy for the extra 200 whatever on top of their base rent. You know, they make a lot of extra income, actually. And I'm super happy because I'm paying a fair price, what I consider fair, for this space that I like to live in. So anyway, the guy that brings me up with his mom and introduces me into the apartment is like, this is it, bedroom, kitchen. What are you doing here? And I knew what he was saying, but I always like asking them, like, oh, what do you mean? I always like asking innocently, even though I know what they're saying, because I like to hear them say, as he did, why did you choose this neighborhood? It's very far away from the tourist center. There's not many services. And I was like, yeah, I don't like the tourist centers. I like living out here with the locals. And like services, dude, supermarkets, there's water, hot showers, giant space for me to dance around the living room for fun. The mountains are right there. Like, they're right there. I can just climb into mountains after 30 minutes. After 10 minutes, I'm ascending already. After 30 minutes, I've left Cusco behind. I'm just in the mountains. I love it. I love it. All the amenities are here for me. And there's money changers out here. You can change your money. There are Western Union wire. All the services are out here also. They're just a mile away from all the tourists. But I always think it's funny when a local is like, but why would you come here? Half the time they're like, it's really boring here. By which they mean there are no nightclubs to dance in. Those are all in the city center. I'm like, I don't want a bunch of traffic and loud nightclubs. I want to hang out in a neighborhood that has all the good food and all the normal people. I don't want the people who are used to seeing tourists who are very servicey. I want people who don't give a crap that I'm a foreigner, which the further you get out of the tourist center, the less they care where you're from. They might be more interested. They're like, oh, a foreigner. But they treat you more normal. You're just like this errant fish swimming through their stream. But they're so much more relaxed outside of tourist centers. I just feel more comfortable around regular people instead of around service people. Like if I walk into a hotel and someone says, sir, hello, it's so good to see you, I vomit in my mouth and like run away like as fast as I can. I don't want that experience. Okay, ramble on. Jeez. Okay, we're almost done with the third item. The thing I wrote down is something I already mentioned. I met this cool Dominican in a restaurant who only spoke Spanish, and we just talked for a while because I was chowing down on these ribs, and she saw me eating the second rib. She was like, it's good, right? This lady has the best ribs. And I was like, I know. And the crazy thing about that, she hasn't been open once for ribs since I went there. Which I'm like, hey, man, but I found another super good rib plate. Oh, my God. I'm going to go check what time is it? Oh, it's too late. I got distracted. I was going to do this for 30 minutes, then go get ribs, guys. Okay, anyway. So I was talking with this lady about how good the ribs are in Spanish, and I was like, look at me using my crappy Spanish to have a real conversation. But I saw her, like, face change, and I was like, ooh, I'm going to get that question. And she was like, wait, what are you doing out here? There's no tourists out here. Why are you in this neighborhood? And I, excitedly got to be like, it's cooler with the locals. I didn't even get to explain it though, because as soon as I said, es más genial con los locals, as soon as I started saying it's cooler with the locals, she was like, it's better. You're right. All the food's better. The people are better. It's way more chill. This is just a way better area. And she was like, that's why I'm here too. I'm from the Dominican Republic. Every time I travel around, and I love Cusco and other Peruvian places, I always go to the places outside of the city centers because I don't like to hang out with all the other tourists. And we both just was like, recognize. And then both of us like had our heads held higher. We're like, yeah, we're living with the locals. Even though at all times, especially me, pale white, obvious tourist, she blended in much better as a Dominican. You could tell we were both like, yeah, we're cool. We hang out in the local neighborhoods. That's right. And it's just fun to have that with another tourist who likes living outside of the city centers. And she even did the thing that I did. She's like, and if you need to get in the city center, there's like 100 buses. It costs $1. You just go right up there. Or one soul, it costs 25 cents. And I was like, totally. We just agreed on how much better it is to live outside the city centers. Everything's cleaner, prettier. The local culture is so much easier to imbibe. And the mountains are right here, baby. Okay, folks, if you want to come to Cusco, you should also talk to me because I got an offline map I can send you with all my spots and tell you where to hike. I got to get to the glacier. I got to go out and go find a bus company who will take me down to Singranacocha because I really want to get over to the glaciers before I leave Cusco, if it is at all possible. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how long this lasted. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, not as bad as I thought. We got through only 3 items on the list, but there are 4 pages, not 7 pages left, which is a lot. But they'll probably go faster. Probably. Yeah, a bunch of them about food. That's fine. Okay, I loved talking to you. I hope you're having a great day. If you want to talk to me, get me at bitofarambler@gmail.com or Lemmy, or on Blue Sky, Bit of a Rambler, all one word. Someone asked me about Patreon, and I was like, yeah, probably. I think I'm going to do movie and music reviews on Patreon, just like more personal stuff, and then I'll talk about Ramble On-y stuff too. There'll just be extra episodes of, crap that I do talk about that you can listen to on Patreon. I haven't worked out the fee schedule yet. I'm heavily leaning toward $1 a month because I keep telling you how cheap it is to live out here. And while I might not be doing this forever, I kind of want to put my money where my mouth is and just do $1 a month for Patreon. And you'll just get a bunch of extra episodes because I watch a lot of movies. I have so much free time. I'm listening to music. I always have thoughts about them, but I don't talk about them as much as I think I'd like to. I want to start with one of my favorite movies ever, too. I want to talk about Hannah. That's such a good movie. Anyway, yeah, talk to me, Lemmy Blue Sky or Gmail, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.